Welcome to Financial Issues, where we help you steward faithfully by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
This is Financial Issues, where we help you defund darkness and fund the light by investing with biblical integrity. So grateful for each of you joining us this morning. Seth Udinsky here, Samuel Case, and your host, Mark Manila, with us this morning. 610-363-1110. Mark, good morning, brother. Ready for another show?
Good morning, Christian investors all across America. Glad you're with us today. Glad you're joining us.
Yeah, really exciting. You know, Mark, it's an exciting thing as we remind our listeners just the powerful weapon that your money can be. If it's used for good, it can do some amazing things. That's what we want to help you do.
Yeah, shine the light.
Yep, amen. 610-363-1110, folks. That's the number to call in, 610-363-1110. We got a lot to talk about today. We are bidding farewell to the penny. We're also saying hello later on in this show to our faithful ag reporter, Craig Haugaard. I'm looking forward to that as well, of our farmers and ranchers. I hope you're getting juiced up for that. He'll be coming on with us in about 10 minutes. But let's get started with that there, Mark. You know, the penny appears like it is now on its way out. Sam, what can you tell us? A sad day for the penny here.
That's right, guys. It's time to literally start pinching pennies because its days are numbered, that's for sure. Major retailers across the country, including Home Depot and Kroger, are actually now asking customers to pay with exact change because, frankly, they're running out now that President Trump has ordered the Treasury Department to stop making pennies as of February. He noted that the cost to make a single penny actually costs 3 pennies to make, and he says that's not such a good deal. Actually, Canada stopped making pennies in early 2012 for the same exact reason. Interesting to note, guys, the last time the U.S. withdrew a coin was back in 1857. That was when America ended the half-cent coin, although unlike the half-cent coin, the penny will still remain in circulation, at least for the time being. We're just not making any new ones. By the way, some have also questioned whether the nickel is now on the chopping block, as that coin costs 13 cents to make per coin, which is a lot more expensive than just the penny. So what do you think?
Yeah, Mark, I'm curious. You know, the logic seems like makes sense to me. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Makes sense, huh?
Makes sense.
I don't know.
Not making many more sense. That's right.
I'm having emotional problems with this on so many levels.
Mark just doesn't like change. Well, he likes change because he wants his pennies, but he doesn't like things to change.
I like
the
change.
Jokes write themselves this morning, guys.
They really do. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We look at this. One of the things the first thing that went off is this is due to inflation. As inflation continues to go up, the money goes down. It gets to the point to where a penny isn't worth anything anymore. There was a time when you could buy something for a penny, and it was more than a thought. There was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, where there was 1 cent candies, and there was those type of things. So I get why we're doing it, and I get, but maybe also it might be good to figure out why does it cost so much to make a penny? Why can't our government figure out a cheaper way to do it? I mean, with the production that could be done, I would think they could do it cheaper. When you said 13 cents to make a nickel, well, if it only costs 3 cents to make a penny, and nickels aren't made out of nickel anymore, there's something wrong with these equations, for one. But we don't need to go there because that's silliness, and they're never going to correct their overspending on everything, including how they make money. So we don't need to go there. But I do worry about this interim because it seems like the people who it'll take the most advantage of are those who use cash. And those people are usually the unbanked, which are about 20% of our society. And generally, it's the lowest income classes of our society. So effectively, the poor will get hurt more than anybody else. First of all, a penny doesn't mean anything to somebody who's making hundreds of thousands of dollars. A penny doesn't probably mean much to somebody making $100,000 or $60,000. But to somebody who's living day to day on whatever they can scrounge up, a penny can mean something. So for a while, as every retailer, every grocery store starts rounding up to the nearest nickel, it's those who do not use credit cards or can't get credit cards or don't use banking at all, the unbanked, that are going to be taken advantage of the most. And that saddens me. I know it's only temporary, but that still saddens me on that level. And that, now it took almost 100 years to go from retiring the half penny to going to retiring the penny. Let's see how soon it is before we retire the nickel, and then the dime, and then the quarter. And, it'll be just like the Wall Street going from, the new highs happen once every 5 years and 3 years and 2 years. Now it's happening, once or twice a week, that kind of thing.
Or in this case, Mark, I think it's been every day this week we've been hitting new highs.
Every day this week. So, this is scary on that. That's another story.
Right.
But we do need to be thinking about this. If inflation is that strong, why don't we figure out how to get rid of inflation? And we know what inflation is. It's a devaluation of our dollar or our pennies. And that happens when we print too much and we borrow too much. There's different types of money. We have the actual cash that's printed and inserted. We also have credit, which has gone through the ceiling for everybody. So maybe we need to start being more serious about our dollar and what is happening to it, so we can preserve that and preserve it in the world. Because I really believe inflation and the devaluation of the dollar are what could cause us to get to the cliff that ends this great nation.
So, Mark, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I see a headline like this, the penny's going away, exactly what you mentioned, it's not going to change my life all that much. But you just mentioned two aspects there. One, how this might affect the dollar and kind of moving away from a cash society, moving towards cashless society. But then two, kind of the devaluation of the dollar, as you mentioned there also, inflation. Yeah. I'm glad that you're saying this here, brother, because I think it's really important for us to see that even something as minuscule as the penny going away is going to have an impact. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. I think we ought to mark this as, when they've stopped. It was the beginning of the year, wasn't it, that they stopped making pennies?
So Trump made the announcement to stop making them in February. I think the last time they were ordering blanks was in May.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we should plant a flag in May and then start watching how closer together other coins start going away, because that's the curve that happens. It starts off real slow and then it goes up like that. And that's what's happening with our currency, our dollar, the US dollar in general, is that we're losing more and more. It's just not the general annual inflation rate. It's the cumulative inflation rate that's doing this. And we need to get it under control, people. We really do. This is the biggest thing for our nation. If we don't, we could lose our nation.
Mark, with a pun intended here, a penny for your thoughts with this one. George in North Carolina is saying, I see this as the beginning of the play to remove cash and go to crypto.
I thought the same exact thing, Seth, is that this is just another step in the cashless society trend.
I think that occurred to a lot of people, and it probably is. And I guess somewhere it makes sense, but it also is very scary when the government can just go up to a computer, flip a switch, and shut your banking down and shut it down. So you can't buy groceries, you can't buy gas like they did in Canada with the truckers who decided to protest what was going on up there. All of those people, they shut down their banking ability and their ability to use the digital currencies up there and to use banking in general. So they punished those. They didn't like what they said, and they could do that here, along with tracking every penny that you spend.
Well, may we continue, folks, to elect leaders who are going to uphold Christian values in our nation. Mark, I think that's the solution for this, right? Is we need leaders who are going to protect our rights.
Exactly. Let's go to the top. It's not Trump's fault. Everybody wants to blame the government. It's not the Congress' fault. It's not their fault. I mean, they're just doing what they're trained to do, and their greed and everything. We know that kind of stuff. It's our fault. And nobody wants to hear that. It's our fault. We're the ones who elected these crooks. We're the ones who elected these self-centered people into Congress who want it to be a socialist nation so they can sit at the top in luxury while the peasants create all the wealth for a few at the top. This is what it's all about. And And it comes down to being, it's our fault. It's your and mine and everybody else who should be voting. When I see an election that has 70% or more people going out to vote, then I'll be impressed. When I see 10 to 20%, like we'll probably see here in this next election coming up here in November, it's our fault until we see those numbers go up.
Well said, brother.
We got to be active citizens.
Sure do.
We got to
stewards of the country.
Steward our citizenship.
Yeah. It's well said. 610-363-1110, folks. 610-363-1110. We'd love to hear from you. If you got questions about the penny going away, you want to give us your 2 cents, as it were, 610-363-1110. Craig Haugaard joins us next for a live ag report. You don't want to miss that, folks. And, of course, we'll get to your calls and questions all on financial issues. Great day to be here with us today. We appreciate each of you. Again, 610-363-1110. We'll be back.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life, and some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay or to go, to remain the same. Read carefully before investing.
I started investing close to 30 years ago now. All that time, I had never heard anyone talk about setting up your portfolio in a way that glorifies God. When I first heard about it, I was listening to the radio, a show called Financial Issues. They were teaching people how to honor God with their money. I became a partner with Financial Issues, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made. Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
610-363-1110. Again, we'd love to hear from you, folks. Join the conversation. 610-363-1110. Mark, I'm enjoying the conversation so far, brother.
Yeah, me too. Hey, and I just have to say, I know we beat that to death, but, I was looking online and I went out and looking for pennies collections and stuff. And there's a penny collection that has 99 pennies in it. It's selling for $199 right now.
Wow. Well, there you go. The value of the penny.
The penny is going up in value now.
How about that?
All because we talked about it on financial issues.
Amen.
No, I don't think so.
That's awesome. Hey, folks, a couple of housekeeping things for you, partners, non-partners here. Just want to let you know, we did issue a couple of sell alerts, also added some new things to the buy list. That's all in yesterday's partner commentary. So you're going to scroll down to the commentary and check that out. Check out those new buys. They're awesome. Our show is sponsored in part today by our friends at the Timothy Plan. We love Timothy Plan. I was talking with Mark just before the show about this, how grateful I am personally to be invested in Timothy funds and how well those funds are performing. And obviously, Mark, that's never a guarantee, but to be able to see how well the Timothy Plan does, the model they put forth is steady long-term growth, and it's biblically responsible. That's the key. And I just love it so much, man. And I know so many of you have had such a good experience with Timothy also. You have exposure in Timothy funds too. It's great stuff.
Yeah, and we need to be investing in things like Timothy Plan because the cost of living going up, especially those things we like beef going through the ceiling. My steak that I'm a steak and potato guy. I could just live on a good steak and some potatoes. And now I go out to a restaurant. It's like, wait a minute, let me get that loan application out for this meal.
Exactly. Mark, I'm glad you mentioned that because we actually have an expert on the program right now who can talk to that very subject. Folks, you have to understand how cool this is for me to be able to be in the presence of such brilliance, not only as Mark Manila, but now also as Craig Haugaard, our financial issues ag reporter, joins us live on the show. These guys raise the brilliance and handsomeness level in the room. So I'm just going to let you guys go here. Craig, great to have you on, brother.
Well, that's kind of a backhanded compliment. Knowing you, that's not a high bar to clear.
Craig, I don't know you that well, but for some reason I like you a little better just now.
Well, Craig, too easy a layup. I had to take that.
Yeah,
you had to, Craig. See, there you go. The brilliance on display, folks.
Yeah. So this article came up about a week ago about the possibility of Trump trying to import beef from Argentina. And it made a whole lot of questions pop into my mind. Is that a compromise of America first? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What's really going on? But before we hit that, why are beef prices so high?
Well, historically there's a cycle called the cattle cycle. It's about an 8 to 12 year process that you kind of go through based on supply and demand, right? And right now we're in the trough phase where herd sizes are at their lowest. In fact, back in January of 2025, when they did the quarterly inventory, the cattle herd in the United States was 86.7 million, lowest number since 1951. Now, since then, the cattle herd has started to grow. In fact, the July numbers came in at 94.2 million. So we're starting to see that cattle herd grow. Now, the reason the cattle herd is growing is because prices have been higher for beef. It's incentivizing guys to keep some of those heifers back, those young calves, and keep them as breeding stock and grow the herd. And so it's a real natural cycle. Now, because of the gestation, 283 days roughly for a pregnant cow to go through all that and give birth, and they usually have a single or twin, so it's not a fast process. You look at hogs, for example, 114 days, they'll crank out a litter, and they're averaging a little over 11 pigs per litter now. So you can get hog numbers up quickly. Chickens hatch in 21 days, you can get those up. But to build a cattle herd just takes a little bit of time. And so what we were seeing was this cattle kind of going through the cycle. I would say we were starting to enter the expansion phase of our cattle herd. But obviously,
now what I'm hearing on this, Craig, is that it almost sounds like you're saying that the cattle herdsmen, the big beef companies, they're the victims of the cycle. But really, isn't the cycle their own? They did it to themselves, and they did it so that they could raise the price of beef, so they didn't have to raise as many cattle. Isn't this part of that cycle? Is that we get all this beef and the price starts coming down and they have to work harder for every penny, which they won't have to do pretty soon because there won't be any more pennies. Right. But they had to work harder for the money. Am I demeaning the cattle industry too much, or is part of this their responsibility?
And I think you're getting maybe the beef packers confused with the cattle producers.
Okay, so help me with that.
So the big packers, and I think that's what you're referring to maybe with the big companies, they operate the kill facilities, right? And so they can control the price of beef based on the amount of cattle they kill. And obviously when their margins are red, just like same with a cattle producer, if you're losing money on every cow you produce or every calf you produce, you're probably going to produce less of them, right? You're going to liquidate your herd, and so there's that cycle. But with the packers, they can when they're in the red, they kill less cattle. There's less beef in the grocery stores, and it tends to push prices up. And so over time, it kind of balances out. I don't know if it's a greed necessarily. It's a response to market factors like anything else. If you got a factory and you're losing money on every widget you produce, you're gonna become more efficient or quit producing widgets, right?
Sure. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Well,
So how does this Argentina import thing play into all this?
Well, it kind of, I would say, maybe disrupts the normal cycle of production. But I think, if I could touch on one more factor here, that is, as the prices shot up on the futures market, and we've seen cattle prices go up, we've seen a lot of speculators come into this market as well, and they've been accumulating really large long positions. And so what happened when President Trump came out and said, we need cheaper beef? Well, the hedge funds and the speculators kind of panicked, as you would expect them to, and started liquidating their long positions, right? And so we've driven the price of beef down sharply the last week here or so, as they've just scrambled to get out of their long positions. Interestingly enough, the prices that the packers are selling their meat for to the grocery stores is during that same time period. There's a seasonality of beef as well. As we get into the holiday season, beef prices tend to firm up. So what we've seen is kind of a worst of all worlds from a cattleman standpoint. The price that he's receiving when he sells his either feeder cattle or his fat cattle has dropped precipitously. And at the same time, the packers have seen the price of the meat that they're selling go up. So it's a great deal for the packers. Their margins are huge. The guys out in the country that are producing the beef are taking a whipping. And it really feels a little bit like we've kind of picked some winners and losers here. President Trump could have said, the packers need to have less margin and put it on the packers, but instead it kind of got dumped on the cattlemen out in the country. And so the guys that are still killing cattle are making more money now than they did a week or two ago, because prices have crashed, but demand hasn't changed, and they're able to kind of manipulate that. But so that's kind of the behind-the-scenes thing of what's going on. And in terms of Argentina itself, pretty interesting, I think, with that as you look at the amount of cattle that come in. Now, we have an import quota from Argentina into the United States of 20,000 metric tons of beef per year, and they're going to now under the President Trump's plan, they're going to increase that quota up to 80,000 metric ton per year. So the media's out there saying, well, we're quadrupling the amount of Argentinian beef that we're going to purchase, and that headline sounds pretty bad, but it's probably actually not that bad. Because basically right now, anytime Argentina goes above that quota, that 20,000 metric tons, they get slapped with a 26.4% duty tariff. Now, last year they sent us about 40,000 metric tons anyway, so they paid that extra tariff on the other 20,000. This year they weren't even on pace to hit the 20,000 metric ton quota. Argentina has shifted where most of their beef goes, and China has become their main customer. So as you look at this, I think this is more psychological. We could move up to 80,000. Last year we got 40,000 anyway, in spite of the tariffs. I guess it makes it a little easier to move it this way. But in reality, China is going to be paying probably more for Argentinian beef than the U.S. is. And I think we'll continue to see it probably head that direction.
There's
just a lot of moving pieces on this thing.
So here's my question. Wouldn't it make sense to have other areas around the world where we are receiving beef from to kind of stabilize the cycle that you were talking? And wouldn't that be better for those who are raising beef than not have to go through these troughs and peaks and valleys by having the stabilization of being able to bring in beef to keep it more stable as far as the quantity of what we have for the American citizen table?
And they really tried that in the Soviet Union, Mark. That's kind of a flippant answer, but in reality, you've got market forces that you're trying to manipulate at that point, right? Rather than go a total free market. And I can, it makes a certain amount of sense, but I think anytime Yeah, I don't know. I was the market sort itself out and work. One of the other
I have faith in the U.S. market and in the U.S. farmers and ranchers. I do believe they can make it work.
Yeah.
But, bringing in the meat packers changes the whole story a little bit.
Well, it does. And maybe, I really think that if we want to fix this problem, the meat packers would be the place to start. The other thing that has really got the beef market spooked is that the Mexican ag minister is meeting with Secretary Rollins this week to talk about reopening the border. And the fear in the cattle industry is that, with President Trump focused on wanting lower prices, that they're going to throw the Mexican border wide open again for cattle. We've seen a lot of disease issues down there as well.
Well, thank you, Craig. Having you on today, I think it shined a lot of light on this issue and might help people understand why beef has to be so expensive, at least for a time. And it gives us hope that coming soon, it won't be as bad because that cycle through and we'll see the beef come down as the producers and the packers get their act together. And we have a whole lot more coming up.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
I started investing close to 30 years ago now. All that time, I had never heard anyone talk about setting up your portfolio in a way that glorifies God. When I first heard about it, I was listening to the radio, a show called Financial Issues. They were teaching people how to honor God with their money. That made a lot of sense to me. I guard my heart, my mind. I watch my mouth, hoping to bring glory to God in everything I do and say. Well, why wouldn't I want to do the same with my money? I decided I wanted my portfolio to glorify God. I became a partner with Financial Issues, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made. I want to leave a legacy of godliness for those who are following in my footsteps. Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
When a woman comes into a center, she's being pressured from her family, from her friends, by her circumstances, by the rhetoric of the culture to believe that this is a quick and easy way out. If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity. And so we just encourage you to make a difference at whatever degree you can, whether you can do a $28 contribution for one ultrasound, whether you can underwrite an ultrasound machine for $15,000 or 10 ultrasound machines for $150,000. Where does the Lord have you so that you can make a difference?
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Folks, join the conversation, 610-363-1110. 610-363-1110. Mark, today's an interesting day. It's the 96th anniversary of Black Tuesday. Of course, Black Tuesday, the famous stock market crash of 1929. Mark, I find that fascinating because, of course, there are a lot of people who are very concerned that we're going to see another perhaps similar crash like that. Maybe not as terrible as that one was, but maybe more like 2008. Are you seeing that as well?
Well, I think there are people always that see another Black Tuesday coming, in 2008. And you know what? Markets do that. We have to be careful. Yeah. We are seeing a lot of new highs every day, every week. It seems like it is getting to where the markets don't ever want to pull back. So when they do, it just reminds me of pulling back a bow. When you pull it back, you can only pull it back so far, and the further you pull it back, the faster it goes back the other way.
Well, Mark, speaking of which, we got some breaking news here, guys. NVIDIA this morning became the first company to reach $5 trillion of market valuation. I'm seeing that on CNBC. Right now.
Holy smokes.
$5 trillion. We had a headline lined up, Mark, that Apple just broke $4 trillion, right?
Right. But that doesn't seem nearly as impressive now, right? Yeah. So yesterday morning, Apple joined the 4 trillion market cap club. That was just yesterday morning for the first time ever. Earlier this year, NVIDIA and Microsoft for the first time reached 4 trillion as well. But again, not nearly as impressive as NVIDIA now breaking that 5 trillion. That's a lot sooner than we thought, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So,
yeah, it is. And that alone should be scary. I mean, how many countries would it take? Normal country. How many countries have a $5 trillion GDP? How many countries are that big? Not very many. So that should. I remember a thing called Rollerball. Does anybody remember that movie? It was about how corporations took over the world. It was no longer countries. It was different corporations owned the land, and so you were.
I know the movie. I've not seen it though. I know the premise though.
Yeah. So this is what it feels like it's going to here. It gets scary when there's that much power consolidated under a board of 6 to 12 people. That kind of scares me. I don't know if you remember, you brought up Black Tuesday, but Black Tuesday, one of the main reasons that happened is because the banking industry was not very well regulated, and they had the commercial banking along with the consumer banking. So you go into the bank and say, I want to buy stock in this company, or the banker or the teller would say, hey, we now are selling this stock. Do you want some? Well, I don't have any money. We'll lend you the money. And so they were lending the money to buy the stock at the same bank. So the bank was making money on each end. And then when the market started collapsing, the bank lost gobs of money because they lent it all out to people who bought stock that is now worthless. So the bank was worthless. And that destroyed, that's what put us into the Great Depression, actually, all the banks collapsing because of that. And you think about that, after that we came up, what was it, the Glass-Steagall? I think it was the Glass-Steagall Act that separated commercial banking from consumer banking. And it wasn't too long ago that they just kind of reversed that. And I don't know about you, but that gave me a very scared feeling. I think it was like in 99 or 2000 or somewhere in there that they did away with the separation, because they said we weren't competitive with international banks anymore because of that separation. We may have been solid, we may have been secure, but we weren't competitive. Well, now we're competitive, and we're seeing corporations take over the world. So I guess that's where it puts it. And maybe it's not a bad thing, especially since we know most corporations are compassionate, caring, loving, and the only thing they do is try to help people out, right?
Right.
So true, Mark. By the way, the only countries that are worth more than $5 trillion, it looks like, is Germany, China, and the U.S. So NVIDIA is worth more than every other country in the world.
How about that?
Don't worry. You'll sleep okay tonight.
Well, and Mark, I'm glad you brought that up, because our partners will sleep okay, because our partners sold NVIDIA about a month or so ago when we issued our sell alert, because NVIDIA is no longer biblically responsible. Now, we're not promising that there is going to be a crash of NVIDIA, but Mark, just like you said, it keeps going up and up and up. Who knows what could happen? I for one, am thrilled for our partners that they don't have to be chained to NVIDIA if we do see a crash there, because they were faithful to God and they sold it. By the way, we have our petition out right now, Mark. We're trying to get as many signatures on that as possible, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We are. We need to to do that. We need to get as many as possible. So hopefully we can help NVIDIA be a more compassionate, more loving, do the things that they're supposed to do and promise to do, and get out of trying to engineer society to fit what they want so they can have more control and have more workers for less money. That's the way I'm seeing the manipulation of our society. When we try to move, when great capitalists try to move a society to socialism in any way, shape, or form, I'm not saying NVIDIA is doing that yet, but when they do that, it's because they've gotten to the point that they see that they're above everybody else and they just need to control everything else, and everybody should be working just for them. We got to be careful about that.
It also thwarts competition, so no one can knock them off the pedestal.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And,
so
Mark,
get that petition signed.
Exactly. I hope it's okay for me to say this. I'm going to do it and apologize later if I'm not supposed to say this, but I will say this right now. We have almost 800 signatures on our signature on this petition as of today. We are going to sunset this petition at the end of the week. So we'll close it down and send it to NVIDIA. We want to get 1,000 signatures, and I believe we can do that. We want to get 1,000. We want to get more than that. We're about 200 away, folks. So if you have not signed this yet, you got to go to financialissues.org and do it right now, and then send it to as many people as you know that they can sign it as well. You don't need to be an investor. You don't need to have invested in NVIDIA to be able to sign this
with a petition.
Right. You can be someone who just doesn't want children to be mutilated. How about that? Why don't we start there? Be a great thing to do.
There.
Absolutely.
Amen.
610-363-1110. You know, Mark, there is some good news out there. It is Winning Wednesday after all. And so we want to highlight exactly. We need a palate cleanser here. Sam, this is a great article that you shared with us. Looks like Bible sales have spiked ever since Charlie Kirks' murder. The plans of the enemy have been foiled, trying to silence one of the great Christian speakers of our day by killing him. It has not worked, which is awesome. Can you tell us about that, Sam?
Right. It sure goes to show not only is this good news, but it shows that God can turn terrible, awful, evil news into good news, because you're right. Bible sales are spiking through the roof, rising a stunning 36% in September, totaling 2.4 million copies. And a lot of that was spurred on by Charlie Kirks' assassination. People want to support him, and people were seeing more videos, frankly, of him sharing his Christian faith. His voice was magnified in death, which is really amazing. In fact, to honor Charlie Kirks' birthday earlier this month, Turning Point USA posted 31 ways to live like Charlie Kirk, including honor the Sabbath, send scripture to friends, go to church, and read your Bible every single day.
That is good news to see that more and more people are seeking God first and foremost, that they're seeking truth. And, you know, that's what Charlie Kirk threw out there. He gave the gospel. In fact, he was stronger in his gospel when somebody opposed it than when they didn't. It was incredible. You know, he said, I'm going to pray for you. Here's what you need in your life. If you want to be a man, you need to find Jesus Christ. You need to surrender your life to the one true God. He was very strong about the gospel. He wasn't shy. He was bold. And because of that, and because of all those clips that are getting played over and over again, we're seeing more and more people come to Christ. So bottom line, share your faith. That is, I think it was you, Seth, who said that the foundation of stewardship is stewardship over our salvation, the gospel.
That's right, brother. That's the first area of stewardship that we have to take dominion over, is the stewardship of the gospel. And that means first and foremost living lives that are reflective of Christ inwardly, and then sharing the gospel to everyone we meet. I believe it starts with those closest to you, so your immediate family, meaning your children. If you've got children and grandchildren, that's your mission field. First and foremost, more than the third world, and that's important. Your first mission field is your children, and then it's the people spreading out from there, your workplace, your extended family. That's what happens here, Mark. And Mark, can I just point this out also? With this story, this is so important, folks. If you're one of those people who gets scared and concerned every time we see something like this happen, where you have a tragic event, a Christian leader is assassinated. This doesn't happen often, but when it happens, usually the response either goes one of two ways. Either Christians will cower in fear and say, Lord, please take us away, bring the rapture, or you'll see what the reality is, which is the gospel explodes. The gospel goes forth. If they try to kill us, that's not going to work.
The number of people who said, I've never been to church before, but I'm going this Sunday to honor Charlie Kirk, work was truly amazing.
Absolutely. The blood of the martyrs really is the seed of the church. And I'm not one of those people who prays for persecution. It's going to happen, folks. Don't waste your prayers asking for persecution. It's going to come. But be confident that when we get persecuted, that's just going to fuel the church. It's not going to slow it down. I mean, this is amazing here, Mark.
He's going to use it for good, to his glory.
Absolutely.
And more people will hear the truth. They'll hear that our God loves you so much that he sent his only son to die on the cross to pay the price for our sins, for our rejection, for our rebellion against God, so that we could have an eternal relationship with him. And just by accepting that gift, we then become his again, and we have a relationship with the one true God. He gives us the Holy Spirit to give us strength and power, and he just brings us into a new way of life that we've never seen before, where we can realize the peace that surpasses all understanding.
Well said, brother. Folks, we want to hear from you. 610-363-1110. Our phone lines are open. We got time in this last segment. Get your call queued up right now. 610-363-1110. On the other side, your questions, your calls, couple more headlines if we have time for it. It's been great to be here with you. One more segment to go on financial issues. We'll be right back.
In a world where financial decisions can feel overwhelming, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters: our family, our faith, and our future. With financial issues by our side, we can invest knowing that our financial decisions are in line with our values. Take the first step today and become a financial issues partner to access rich online resources, training tools, and guidance for biblically responsible investing. Head over to financialissues.org and learn how to invest your money in a way that honors God. That's financialissues.org.
In the last 10 to 15 years being in ministry, being married, something that has been constant in our lives is Samaritan Ministries. As we've moved, we've had babies, we've had different things come up, we have just been able to rely on Samaritan in ways that we never really even thought about before becoming members.
Our heart's desire is to plant roots and be in a place for a really long time. It's how we were raised. We see the benefits of that, but we also see the open-handedness of being used by the Lord wherever he calls, because we just assumed when we started pursuing church planting, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line. And with the Lord, sometimes you find out it looks a lot more like this. And yet, Samaritan was with us through the entire thing.
We didn't have to look into, we have to change insurances now because we've moved states or whatever the case may be. And it's just been a real blessing to us in different phases of life.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Colleen.
We're the Gen X.
And we're Samaritan members.
Preborn is making motherhood possible for thousands of moms across America.
I found out that I was pregnant. My family, they were like, no, you're not having this baby. I met Miss Linda. She offered to get me an ultrasound. That's where I very first heard the heartbeat. It was really a great thing that I was led to the choice to keep him.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
610-363-1110. You can get your call queued up right now, folks. The market's built on some fresh records yesterday. They finished moderately positive yesterday, and they've opened in the same way this morning, actually a little more than moderate. They're feeling pretty good. The Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, both up nearing 1 full percentage point. The S&P 500 is up about a third right now, Mark. But they don't seem too tepid or pensive or concerned about the fact that there is an interest rate meeting later on today, of course, so we'll be keeping an eye on. But they're just so excited. So that's
or that the government shutdown continued. Democrats once again, 13th time, voted against a bill to fund the government.
Yeah, well, that's reflected in how scared everybody is because of this, in the way the markets just keep going up.
Yeah.
What will we ever do without the government?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Yep. Well, 610... Sorry, Mark,
yeah,
go ahead.
610-363-1110. Hey, I got that one right.
You nailed it, brother.
Go ahead and give us a call. We love hearing from you.
Yeah, give us a call, folks. While we're waiting, Mark, let's get to a couple questions here. James is 68 years old. He's asking a good one here. He says, hey, Mark, we're considering buying TPLIX. However, I see that two of its bigger holdings right now, as we're recording this in October of 2025, Mark, are NVIDIA and Tesla. Should we still get into these funds? The fund is currently on the buy list. What do you think, Mark?
Well, that's a great question. The good news is, first, let me thank you for your desire to invest with biblical integrity. I think that honors God. It's an act of worship, as well as a way to plan for the future in the temporal, as you glorify God eternally. So that's awesome. Secondly, Timothy Plan. They're the strictest in the industry. They really are at keeping their funds clean. So what happens is there's processes they have to go through to liquidate this, and their process is to do it in a systematic way. I've talked directly with the Timothy Plan, and they are getting rid of that in a systematic way. And I'm sure in a month or so you'll see that as the reports come out, because it takes time to do that. First of all, to get rid of it in a systematic way that does not harm the investors, and then secondly, to get the reports caught up and the reporting to Morningstar and everybody else and that kind of thing. So you can invest in Timothy Plan with a very, very happy conscience. Don't worry about it. You're good.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you for that. That's good. Next one up here is Kevin. Mark. Kevin's saying, hey, Mark, I have a very large holding of AVGO. He says I'm up over 700%. Nice work, Kevin. It's grown to be about 20% of my portfolio. I'm looking to retire at 60. Again, Mark, he's 57. I'll likely want to draw 4% a year from this account at that time. I've been slowly moving to an income portfolio, but I'm not there by any means. Is there more upside to holding on to AVGO? I'm concerned because it's now such a large holding and it's got great influence on my 401k, but I'd like to continue to grow at least 2 more years. What do you think?
AVGO seems to be a great stock. Do they have upside? Nobody can predict the future, but their potential is great. Now, however, the potential for a downside is great too. They do have a high valuation, which like we were just talking about NVIDIA or some of the other leaders in the tech field. So it does have we're up on the 100th floor of the Empire State Building and we're walking across that 2x4 I talked about. It doesn't have any more talent to do that than to walk across that 2x4 if it was on the ground. But the consequence of what can happen when it does pull back is so much larger. So we want to be careful with that. That's one of the reasons we go into diversification. I think that with only 2 years left to go, you may really want to consider pruning that back substantially. Get it within the 5 to 10% range of your portfolio so that you don't have so much in any one stock that could really be a high risk of volatility in your portfolio by holding on to a single stock to that proportion. We really here at Financial Issues want you to have a diverse portfolio that any one stock cannot put on your portfolio substantially, and you have that risk at this time. So yeah, I would say trim that back, prune it back, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to get rid of the whole thing, but get it in within a proportion or a safety zone of 5 to 10%. I lean more towards the 5%. If you sleep well at night, go on up to take it up to wherever you want to be on it. Obviously, that's between you and God, but my suggestion is prune it back to between 5 and 10%. And remember, diversification isn't fear, that fear of falling and splattering, pulling down your portfolio. That's a common thing to feel is a concern, but not to fear that. It's just prudence. It's just a faithful management. God created this wealth for you, and maybe now that you're within a couple of years, it's time to start pruning that back and preserve that wealth to be utilized in a way that honors God instead of worrying about getting 1 more point or 2 more points on a single stock. So you could diversify that into some some income stocks, some REITs, or something that produces an income, or you might find 2 or 3 other stocks that you might want to put it into that are growth stocks that maybe are growth with decent dividends to diversify your portfolio a little bit more. So yeah, prune it down, get your portfolio a little bit more balanced in the diversification, and sleep better at night. And Mark, again, thank you for your desire to honor God with your investments.
Yeah, and that's awesome, Kevin. Mark, a question for you as a follow-up, and I apologize to be this guy, but what qualifies as a decent dividend for someone like Kevin who might be looking for a stock that could be a little more growth oriented, but also has a dividend? What percentage should he be looking for?
Well, that's a great question. And I would say if you're getting 1 to 2%, even 3%, if you're getting above 2% in a growth stock, you got a good dividend.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the stocks that are up at the 3, 4, sometimes 5%, they're not really a growth stock. All their money is going back into paying us, the holders, the partners, the stockholders in those companies, and not so much going into, not all, but in general is what I'm speaking. So if you can get anywhere from a 0.5 point to 2% and have a decent steady growth stock, why not? That gives you a little buffer if it pulls back. You haven't lost any. If it goes down 2%, you haven't lost anything if you have a 2% dividend. And so a little growth in your portfolio is always good, even in retirement, because you got to keep up with inflation and taxes on that as well. So
great stuff. Thanks for that, Mark. That's awesome.
Get the pruners out there.
There you go. That's right. Trim it, baby. Good stuff. Kevin, you're doing a great job, man. That's a victory that you're up that far, man. Well done.
Yeah. Praise God.
Mark and Sam, an interesting headline that I'm seeing here as well. This kind of goes back about a week or so, but there's been a lot of talk about kind of this increase of betting markets. What's the word that they're using for it, Sam? They're not using the word betting or gambling. They're couching it to make it sound more palatable. I can't remember exactly what the word is off the top of my head.
This is like Kalshi and some of those guys. They're call them using prediction markets, contracts, contracts.
Yeah, they're trying to make it sound like options or commodities now, and trying to make it sound like you're investing, you're not gambling.
Yeah.
They're doing everything possible to avoid the term gambling.
And part of the reason for that, I was doing some research into this, it's so that they won't be regulated as if that they are gambling outfits, which they are, but by getting this loophole in, it's like, well, it's really, you're investing in prediction contracts. That way they can't necessarily be regulated state by state as a traditional sports book is.
Yeah. And guys, we're seeing this everywhere. I mean, we saw there was crazy things happening in the NBA. There was a couple players and coaches participating in different forms of gambling. Now the NHL and DraftKings are partnering with these prediction market companies.
Right, there's the issue there.
Exactly.
This is where it's gotten crazy. People have gambled ever since the beginning of time. There's been gambling. We know that. We know that, they were rolling dice for Jesus's robe. It goes on all the time. So that it's never going to end. But when we see the professional leagues start getting into it, then we have compromise in athletics. When it used to be, we'd raise our kids to be sportsmen and to be good sportsmen, to not be bad winners and bad losers, but to have that, it was part of becoming a manhood, developing your abilities physically and mentally to do the best you can. And there was a lot of integrity in that. As soon as these major leagues start getting into betting, it's all off. It becomes nothing more than a casino. We don't know if that guy threw that outside curve on purpose or not. We don't know if the guy in the outfield dropped that ball on purpose or not because he was told to, because it's time for the other team to win, because there's so much being bet on that, and the major league will make more money if that other team loses. It loses all integrity. I did an op-ed. Hopefully it'll be coming out soon on that. It really bothers me.
Yeah, there was a great article recently where a guy said, I've always known that gambling is kind of part of the sports industry, but he's like, now it's almost as if sports is part of the gambling industry. It's reversed itself.
That's exactly right.
That is exactly it. And it's a shame because my gosh, we have all generations of the United States raised with the integrity of athletes. Now we don't have that anymore. Now we have to be careful about anything we do. I'm not even comfortable paying for tickets to a game anymore because of that. It's kind of like the investment arena. When it got so out of hand that you couldn't invest in anything that didn't compromise your biblical beliefs, now we can't even participate in the entertainment of athletics because of that. But I can say one thing that's cool, and that's I can thank all our listeners for loving the Lord and investing with biblical integrity. God bless everyone.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.